I've been watching people die in caves to like mentally prepare myself.
Die in caves?
2, 1, clap.
Dempsey, you've been watching people die in caves?
Or like,
to
you know, when they do
prepare
like the breakdown of how people have died in caves.
To mentally prepare yourself for dying in a cave?
Well, for being in caves in general.
Huh. You know what? I feel like that is the most you way to prepare for that.
I just don't want to.
It's kind of like knowing you're going to prison and then watching a bunch of true crime beforehand.
Yeah. Because like, I don't want to be the type of guy who dies afraid and confused. I just want to die afraid.
You want to understand why you're dying. Got you. Okay. Well, thanks for that. On that note, this is Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach you, and indeed not a cave diving podcast at all. My name is Katie. I am a teacher on summer vacation, and I am joined by my co-host, Dempsey.
Yeah, so not cave diving, because that is underwater. I'm going caving.
Oh, sorry.
Seth.
My mistake. And my other co-host, Seth.
I'm a summer vacation who is sometimes a teacher.
You are a summer vacation. I love it.
I'm the embodiment of summer vacation.
I love that for you. We should all strive for that level of chill. All right. This week we are going to be trying to discuss mental health in video games. Both its representation in video games as well as the kind of societal views of people's mental health who play video games. And then Dempsey had a really good, smart filmmaker vibes idea about the larger picture of the discussion of mental health. I'm doing hand signals, you can't see, of mental health in like media in general. But before we get into all of that super accessible and light topic, Seth, what have you been playing this week?
I have played exclusively Elden Ring Nightreign. My commentary since last week is that the game is good. I'm close to 100%ing. I just need to beat the final boss of a run with all the characters. I think I've beat it with 4. But I have all the other achievements.
It's exactly what
are there?
Sorry?
How many characters are there?
There's 8.
Okay.
It's exactly what it is on the box, right? Like there's no like meta commentary on like roguelikes. This is not like a okay. They didn't like FromSoft didn't like fundamentally change the way we consider roguelites to work. Okay.
No, it's a pretty mid roguelike at that too.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I think I will not be getting this game. You have informed me of a purchase decision because I was thinking like I do like the bosses and I do like FromSoft, but I don't love the mechanics of it. I like the exploration in the world, and it feels like going and doing the same thing over and over again is maybe not that. You know what I mean?
There's not really a lot of like world to explore.
Okay, yeah. So it's
because
it
you're
not
schmoovin'.
Yeah.
Plus, you still have 30 hours of Death Stranding or something to play, Dempsey. So
I do.
Yeah.
This feels like, and this is not. I don't need to defend FromSoft. This feels a little bit like it might have started out as like a rush boss mode or boss rush mode, and like if it feels, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the big experience that I was hoping for when they published something. I want like a world to like sink my teeth into. I want to like feel like I'm, discovering something that has nothing not evil has been here in the past like 1,000 years or whatever. I don't know. It's fine.
Dempsey, I think you were so absorbed with last week's topic that you did not listen to a word I said about Nightreign. Because I essentially gave the same commentary last week.
I know. Here's where I've been going with Nightreign. I think I am now coming to grips with what it is currently. Like I am barely like now, like I understand what this is, and I do not think I am the intended audience. And that saddens
Watch
me.
some people play it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come for free on the PlayStation catalog at some stage.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
That's it.
Okay. I'll go next so then Katie can go last. I have not been playing much video games. I've made a little bit of progress in Death Stranding, and by a little bit, I mean like 3 hours, which is not much in that game. My commentary stands. I think it's really good. I did. So here's a non-spoiler tip. If you lose a package and you say go back to where the package came from, it won't show up in your orders. It'll show up in your private locker.
If you lose it, it'll show up in your private locker?
So yeah, so if you lose a package, right? Like if you there's vehicles
Drop
and things
it.
like that, you can like there's a lot of ways to lose a package. And so
Right.
you will
can get
say
swept away in a river.
yes, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to lose a package. And so there's an option of send the package back to where it came from, and then you will go there. And I went there, but it still wasn't in like the order thing, like select orders, but it's not going to show up in select orders again. It only shows up in select orders once. It'll show up in the private locker associated with that location. So that's just a thing that would have saved me hours if I knew that beforehand.
So even though I've like, let's say I get swept away and I drop something, like I drop the oxycodone or the oxytocin or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Even though it gets swept down the river, it's not lost.
So, okay. No, you can, that version of it is, but you can say now it goes back to wherever it came from.
Do I have to do anything for that to happen, or do I just go back to that place?
No, you have to, it's a menu, it's an option in your cargo menu. So on your deliveries, yes. So when you look at your deliveries and there's an option that's like hold square or whatever, and it's like make this, I don't know the actual wording, but it's like make this go back to where it was the order was initially given, basically.
So if it's like a quest item, you're able to complete the quest even if you've lost
yes
the item.
Yes.
Okay, I get you. That's good to know, because I have thrown myself down a river several times to catch my dropped packages.
and that might be more efficient in the long run, because like we're going back to the like who knows, you do with this information what you will. I took like the majority of my playtime over this past week in Death Stranding was just trying to figure out where the fuck to get this package that I lost. And I figured out that I was at the right location. It's just not in the order list anymore. It shows up in your private locker.
Right, because that would really suck if you were supposed to bring the chiral printer and it went down a river and you're like, well, now I can't progress in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's a hot tip that I found very helpful. Other than that, I had a lot of rendering out at work today and moving data. And so there's like times where my computer was just sitting there for like 20 minutes at a time, and then select a different project, render out. And then so I had a lot of downtime at work. So I have been playing this game that came out last year. It's an indie game called Balatro. Have either of you heard of it?
I knew you were going to say that.
I have been playing so much Balatro. It feels like the first time I've played Balatro. Like I'm like,
that's fun.
I've kind of I've stepped away from it for a long time, and now that I can kind of only game in like these really strange windows of time, Balatro is filling that. And I've stepped away from it enough to where like I'm having to relearn like this is what the builds are going to be. This is an opportunity. Let's see if I can build towards this goal and things like that. Like I'm kind of redeveloping all of that stuff. So we'll see what this round of Balatro is like. Maybe if I become less busy, I'll play less of it because I'll have more time to like sit down in front of my TV. But I've been just too busy doing other stuff to have much actual video game time.
He's been too busy looking for fossils and going into caves and filming Blackfoot ferrets. He's got the coolest job in the world.
Job's a lot cooler than mine.
Katie, what have you been playing?
I've been on summer vacation, so I have actually been playing a shit ton of games. Did I tell you guys about Crush House last week? It was the 1990s reality TV show where you're the filmographer. And so
I don't remember this.
Okay, so I don't think I told you about it. So it is a very stylized, kind of cartoony style game where you are the camera woman for this TV show called The Crush House. And every season, you have 5 days of filming that you have to get through, where you have to satisfy a certain number of audiences that the network tells you have to satisfy. And there's different audiences every day, and they all want different things. So there's like the wholesome audience that wants like adorable conversation and giggling and kindness. And then there's the drama queens who want to see everyone fight. And there's the sexy seekers who want to see people making out. There's like there's literally crazy things. There's the libertarians.
I've heard about this.
I can't figure out what it is that they want. There's the there's the butt guys. You can infer what it is that they want to see. And as you're going through, you're trying to satisfy as many of these audiences as you can in a single day. And if you don't hang on a second. Teddy, stop it. My cat is banging on my door. My cat banging on the door. Who doesn't like that it's closed? Naughty. Anyway, we even put a suitcase in front of the door because Teddy will like pound on a door that's shut. Anyway, so you're trying to satisfy all these, and then the number one rule that they give you is don't talk to the talent. But at nighttime, you go up to buy props, and these props will help you to like fulfill the audience needs the next day. And as you go, eventually the talents start to ask you to complete tasks. And I don't want to spoil it, but there is a lot more to it than it seems. And as you progress through, there's a very like anti-late stage capitalism bent that might also involve like cloning or something. It's very interesting. I haven't finished it yet, but it's really fun, and it was like the perfect game to play while day drinking mimosas because it doesn't ask very much of you. It's great. So it's been fun. And then the other game I got, which is completely different but same sort of retro vibes, is Arcade Paradise. Have either of you guys played this one? Okay, so you are a 19-year-old girl who has inherited the managerial position of your father's laundromat. And you don't want to be a laundromat manager, but you're like, I'm going to prove to my dad that I'm responsible. And your dad's like, why are you so irresponsible? I wish I could be proud of my children, kind of a dude. And as you're there, you're literally like doing like how Power Wash Simulator, you simulate washing things. This one is Laundry Simulator, and you are taking laundry and putting it in the washing machine, waiting and waiting and waiting, and putting it in the dryer and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then putting it on a table. And meanwhile, you're also like picking up trash and taking gum off of things, and there's like mini games for all of this stuff.
God, this sounds so good.
It's really good, Dempsey. I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but it's really good. And then you go into the back room, and there's these arcade boxes, like old school arcade boxes. And your character's like, hey, I bet if we did this up, the arcade boxes would make more money from the people waiting for the laundry than the laundry machines even do. And so you go on this mission to prove to your dad that you have business acumen and that your idea is a good idea. And he's like, just wash the laundry, kid. You're never going to amount to anything. Like, he's a real prick. But you can
That's how you're supposed to talk to kids, by the way.
Yes. I know. That's how I talk. No, I'm just kidding. That's not how I talk to my students.
As educators, we can say that.
As educators, that's how we talk to our students. Just kidding. But the thing is they're all like, there's like Pac-Man, there's Dig Dug, there's all these different like old school arcade games. And what happens is, like the laundry machine takes like 3 or 4 minutes of real life time to finish. So I go into the back room and I start playing the arcade games, and I'm getting really good at Dig Dug. It's so much fun. And then the timer goes off and it's like, wash done. And I'm like, but I'm at a new high level. So then you abandon your laundry duties, and then you don't make enough money to upgrade your arcade. And it's like this whole balance of like managing the laundromat, managing the arcade, and upgrading all of your stuff. It's super, super fun. So I think you really would like it, Dempsey. You should get it. It's on the it's actually on the PlayStation catalog if you have the PlayStation
sure.
Premium.
Yeah. The problem here is everything you talk about sounds so good to play, and I want to play it so bad, and video games take a lot of time.
You could play it on. It would be perfect to play on your Steam Deck in those 20 minutes when you're waiting.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
video games are
it's super
so
fun.
good. It's crazy.
They're
You ever think
so
about that?
good.
You ever think how good video games are?
God,
Yeah.
video games are so good. And then I played all 3 of these games in one day because I'm on summer vacation. So my third game that I played for 4 hours, 5 hours yesterday was Death Stranding, which I only started because Dempsey made me. He was talking about it so much that I was like, but I want to play it too. And so what I really think is that it would be the perfect Steam Deck game because you're walking.
I'm going to fight back on that.
Okay.
So I think that playing it on the biggest screen possible is helpful because I think it looks incredible.
Like, it does look incredible.
The landscapes just straight up look like actual landscapes. Like it has like some of the most photorealistic environments I've ever seen.
It is really beautiful. And the text is really small. Even on the big screen, it's really small.
Yeah, it seems like a design flaw. How do you feel about like the very theatric, like melodrama style of presentation of like the dialogue, or like the plot seems to be very over the top? How do you feel about like those elements of it?
I knew what it was going into it. Like, I knew that it's basically he wanted to make a movie that you could play.
Sure.
And so I'm kind of like, okay, I'm here for it. I made a list of notes. Hang on. Death Stranding is the epitome of I only want to take one trip to bring in the groceries.
Yeah.
I'm like, at one stage, my very first time out, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I had just this most ludicrous tower of boxes on my back. And it was so tall that I kept falling forward on every slightest slope. And I was like, this can't be how I'm supposed to play this game. Like, I can't even move. And then I realized I went all the way one place, thought that I delivered the stuff, went all the way back, and then realized I didn't push it twice. You have to push like select and then confirm.
Oh, yes.
I didn't confirm. So then I had to go all the way back. And by the time I finished the delivery, you know, when they say like, what's the expected route distance and then your actual route distance, my actual route distance was 4 times the length of the expected route distance. And what I love about it, so if you haven't played this, it might be sounding like we're talking absolute nonsense and doesn't make any sense. But basically, like every delivery that you make in this game, it's a post-apocalyptic world. You have to traverse this really wild, rugged terrain. And you broke your bike or you lost your bike. So you're literally the pack mule carrying shit around. And you have to like decide where to put your packages. And I don't decide. I use the auto thing.
Oh, sure.
The auto thing. Yeah, for sure. Because I have no idea. I'm like, yes, automatically put it where it needs to go. I don't know. But then it'll tell you, like I've just learned when you look at your map that you can see other people's routes that they've taken, and then you can plot to follow those routes. Versus what I would always do, which is the line they give you is as the crow flies. And I'm like, cool, I will scale the mountain and rappel the cliff and fjord the river.
My 37 ladders and my 37 anchor points.
Oh, you were taking it like Skyrim style, where you're just like, yeah, I'll just like go that way.
I'm just gonna mountain goat it. And I didn't understand how the ladders work. There's a lot this game acts like you should know already. Yeah, that you just don't know.
It's kind of an embarrassing experience. It's
yeah, I'm like, then they keep talking about how I'm such a legend and stuff, and I'm like, I didn't know that my ladders were one use only. I thought if I dismantled them that I would get them back. So then I'm like completely eradicating my path as I go back, and then I had to go the way I had come, and I was like, but I got rid of all of my ladders. It's so unprofessional. Okay, there's more things. I've never had so much fun walking. There's a hill.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense, and I think it's intentional.
Yeah.
the baby blows heart bubbles when it's happy.
It's very cute.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Have you learned how to rock it?
Yes.
You can with the controller.
Yes.
You have to use the actual controller to rock the baby.
Yes.
You have to like physically rock it. It's good.
Yep. And then mules are a cult of delivery obsessed fanatics. Who is he who is he talking to about that, I wonder? What's the commentary there?
So my stupid headphones, say that one more time.
The mules are a cult of delivery obsessed fanatics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what is the commentary there? Because there's something.
Yeah. So first of all, I love that idea of like it has become ritual past the need, or like past the logistical necessity of, and they just steal everything so they can deliver everything. I love that idea.
And are
so
they
much.
delivering it to their original people?
I don't have that much. I know that there's a lot of mystery around them that I have not solved yet.
It's so bizarre. I'm like,
they're very passionate.
They really love delivery, and it's when you say it out loud, it sounds crazy, and you're like, is this serious? And it does not fit the mood of the rest of the story at all. And that's something else that doesn't fit that killed me. Oh, when you get your when you do your delivery and you're getting the rundown of all your stats at the bottom, it's like score B or score S. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I've been reminded that this game is in fact Japanese.
Yeah, it's like you walk into a casino for like one frame.
Yes, I'm like, this does not fit the vibe. Oh my god! Same with the mules. I was like, what? Okay, it's weird.
Have you
really
had
love delivery?
Have you had to fight any of them?
Yeah, I did. I had to
Okay.
knock them unconscious because
Yeah.
I fell down a hill and they saw me.
It's it's very fun because canonically you can't kill anyone.
Right.
Because if you kill people, they turn into nuclear bombs.
Right. Yes.
And so that's why you can. Yeah. If you.
Oh, and they don't explain any of this. I don't really understand what the fuck is going on. And my husband's watching it while I play, and he's like, "Wait, what's that about?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Have you been paying attention?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah. So basically, you get too much death in you when you die. And then all the death makes you explode. And so you basically all bodies after they die become nuclear bombs. And if you leave it, and you have to incinerate it so it doesn't explode. And so there's a lot of the plot that's wrapped around bringing dead bodies places, and people who didn't do that, what happened to them. So, and then if you die, also you can get there's some fun consequences of you dying because of this mechanic as well. But yeah, basically it's like in the world, like canon, that if you die, you kind of become a little nuclear bomb.
And then I don't know how people become BTs or what BT stands for. Do you know what it stands for?
Bridge. Oh no, it's a BB. Isn't it a BB?
No, BB are the babies. BT are the scary ghost things.
Oh, I don't know what it be. I do not know.
Beach.
What?
Oh, it's probably beach something.
Oh, I thought it was bridge something.
BB is bridge baby.
Yeah. Because a bridge
Seth
is
is
the life.
completely lost with what we're talking about.
It's a bridge between the life and death.
Okay. We're going to have to do an episode on this, Dempsey, when we finish.
It's very funny. So Josh from Gamers Drink is trying to get me to play. He wants all to play Clara Obscura. And he's telling me to stop playing Death Stranding. Every time I jump on his live, he's like, you need to stop playing Death Stranding and play Clara Obscura. And so the fact that you are now playing Death Stranding is so funny.
So I think what needs is that he needs to stop whatever he's playing and play Death Stranding so that we can have an episode about it.
I would be interested to see if I don't know if Josh is the type of person who would like a game so tedious. I feel like a lot of the games that Josh enjoys are very like clean, good combat, action heavy games.
This game is linear.
Yeah, it's not. There's so much friction to do anything though. Like I would say this game is the idea of like how to introduce as much friction as possible, and then the emotional catharsis when you can overcome that friction is incredible.
Mhm.
It's like when you get a road, it's like you haven't built a road yet, but when you built a road and you can just jump on your bike and drive places instead of having to go through the mountains, it is like heroin. It's so good.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm at bridge stage. So, okay. That's what I've
Speaking
been
about
playing.
heroin,
Yeah.
are we going to talk about mental health, heroin?
Yeah.
Was that
yeah.
a segue?
I guess so. Apropos of nothing. So, yeah, this week's episode is about video games and mental health. And I had some thoughts about this based on games that I've played recently, games that we've talked about, things like that. But basically, what I wanted to talk about was the fact that the media often tries, I'm almost reading what I read. I prepared, I wrote something. It tries to contend with the topic of mental health with varying degrees of finesse and clumsiness. And so my question, or my kind of jumping off point, is in what way do video games touch on or handle the topic successfully or poorly, either on its own or in comparison to other media? And do you guys, what is your like take on mental illness or mental health in video games? Do you have any games that you relate to or that you think were handled really poorly or really well that stick out in your mind?
So first of all, BT stands for beach thing,
Oh,
which is a lame acronym.
that's a lame acronym.
So I think, and maybe this might be a kind of a popular answer among our audience, but Celeste, I think, is very
Mhm.
famous for handling mental health topics in a way that only a game can. It's like you will never
Mhm.
get the experience of playing Celeste through any other medium. And it relies on the mechanics in the gameplay to tell the story of perseverance, and how to kind of relate to things like anxious or being anxious about your identity, which I think is something that
Mhm.
I really relate to, with like being very anxious about identity, um, and and useful ways to think about that. And so like
Mhm.
I think video games, I think, handle mental health a lot better, honestly, than movies, at least. Um, because the video game can more successfully put you in the character's shoes. So if it
Mhm.
wants to overwhelm you and make you feel like the odds are insurmountable, it can literally put you in a situation where, for you, the player, you are overwhelmed and the odds are insurmountable. Whereas in a movie, you can kind of disassociate if you feel overwhelmed, um,
Mhm.
and it's a much more passive experience. And then I think in literature, the one thing that video games cannot do that I get out of literature is these like meditative descriptions, like these like long formed over the course of like the whole narrative. We get kind of these descriptions of what things feel like that kind of only
Mhm.
make sense because of the length a piece of literature can focus on one idea. And so
Mhm.
I think literature kind of has this way of being a lot more complete and specific, that I don't think video games will ever really get to. And then so yeah, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel, that movies kind of have the least amount uh of power to talk about mental health, and then video games take it from like an experience and feeling situation, and literature can really like focus on in really robust ways in a way that video games can't. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of
Mhm.
my feeling.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of thinking about it because that's kind of how I feel as well. Like a movie, you are on the outside looking in at this story that's being told, whereas in a video game, you are that character. You are enacting the actions that interact with the world, and so it's why it's like terrifying when you're being chased by a zombie in a video game because you
Yeah.
feel like you're more in that space than versus
Yeah.
watching something. Um, and then also with literature, because we have to engage our imaginations so much and think about it, I think it allows us to become more, I can't think of what the word is, but like to be more encompassed by that story. So, yeah, that's interesting. What do you think, Seth?
What was the original question?
My question was, do you have a game that you can think of that you think handles mental health well or doesn't handle it well, or like just kind of what's your kind of jumping off point, I guess, with this topic?
Dempsey's answer of
question.
Celeste was like the obvious one, right?
Okay.
When you originally, because you had sent us like some of the ideas above prehand, I was thinking a little bit of like the Binding of Isaac game, which like mechanically doesn't really play into this, but like narratively a little bit of that game is really about this character of Isaac who is emotionally at least emotionally abused by his mother, and the sort of actions that leads him to take, and so some of the consequences that result from it. So like story wise, I forget exactly what the story is of Isaac overall, but it's essentially like he runs away from his mom and he accidentally like locks himself in a chest and like suffocates to death or something ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the game's it's the Binding of Isaac, but
I had no idea. I thought it was about like that you're like exploring like some sort of demon basement or something.
yeah, I mean it is. The whole game is supposed to sort of be like Isaac psychologically processing the like experiences he's had with his mother or something or something.
Oh wow.
Or other.
I had no idea.
I don't know. I always feel like it's tough for me to answer a lot of these like topics when we get into it because I feel like I play so many like mechanically driven games.
I know I was trying to think of an angle for you.
I know, and that's literally more on me. I'd have to like scroll through things, but I don't have anything else.
No, I want to talk about a book. I was looking for an example of like what literature can do that video games can't. And there's this book called This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Oh, I've heard of it.
That book is the Outer Wilds of books, where like it seems like a book, but actually what it accomplishes is something that I've never felt before. And it's like really intense, dense poetry, but also like it's very verse oriented, it feels. And so like the emotion and how it talks about these mental experiences are formed by like the rhythm and like the sound of the words as much as anything else in a way that's so intense and unrelenting that like it's not like I don't know, it's not like the author uses like poetic language. It's like the whole work, that's the entirety of it and also only what it is. And so like that, when I think about those emotions that I associate with that book, like they are inseparable from the language used and how it's formulated. And so I don't think a video and that kind of puts me in touch with those feelings in a way that I don't think a video game could ever be capable of, because of how intimate and in the mind reading is. Like it's very like it's your mind kind of constructing everything in a way where like in a video game it's like right there for you and the creator's making a lot of those decisions. And so there's something I think very intimate about reading. But I don't know. I do think that like mechanics, like there's mental health, I think has these tendrils that kind of will spill out into philosophy and also psychology and also like other types of things that aren't purely mental health. I think that's part of the thing that makes it difficult for me to talk about this. Because like when I think of Outer Wilds, that is a game that I would say psychologically affected me most. But I don't know if that game says a lot about mental health. I think that there's an argument to be made that I have a more stable philosophy that I feel more comfortable in. And so for me as someone who has anxiety, that makes me feel less anxious to have this kind of concrete experience that I associate with my philosophy. But like I don't think Outer Wilds is necessarily designed as a mental health game, like the way the Celeste is. Like I think Celeste is
Right.
specifically dealing with mental health. I think Outer Wilds was dealing with philosophy in a way that happens to help my mental health. And so like what is mental health in video games? I think there's some room for like blurring the lines.
I think I was reading some articles before we got on that were talking about basically like some scientists did some surveys on video games over the last 10 years and their representation of mental health. And they had kind of a range that they looked at. And the first one was decorative. So it's just there to be window dressing. And that would be like, you know, an NPC's name is Mad Sally or something, and you know that she's like talking to the birds or whatever.
Would you say the Psychonauts is like that? Because I think Psychonauts is mostly an action platformer that happens to take place in someone's brain or in multiple people's brains.
It's been so long since I played the first Psychonauts. Doesn't he like have to go in and help them with their mental health problems though? Like in navigating inside their brain, he's kind of like trying to help them address their problems.
I would say yes. I would say yes. I think some of it is like you just defeat someone, and so I don't think there's necessarily like a therapeutic equivalent to those ideas.
Yeah,
I do think there are some therapeutic ideas that are there in some ways sometimes. Yeah,
right. And I think that's more the second one. It was let me see if I can remember what it was called. Defining something, like it's one of their defining characteristics, but it doesn't get explored very much. So it's a defining characteristic, but quite two-dimensional. So I think that would be that Psychonauts. Like, oh, they have this problem, and we're going to go in and beat the bad guy and fix it. Persona 5 does the same thing with the mind palaces, where you have to go in and basically make it through the dungeon and then beat the bad guy, and then the person who's like greedy or mean or
they reconsider because now you've
they change their viewpoint and they stop being assholes because you destroyed their like mind palace villain or something. And then the last one was basically, I'm butchering this, but it was basically like dimensional, that it's handled with care and it's not shown as like purely negative. And I think that like Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade, really, really does a good job with that. And I think that it's really important to have those like positive representations, or at least more dimensional representations, because like in Hellblade, she's like an 8th century Pict or something, and she's got psychosis. So she's having audio and visual hallucinations. And like sometimes they're really problematic because they come by way of being like bad guys that you have to fight. But sometimes they help her to solve a puzzle, and she's able to see, you know, where she's supposed to go because of these hallucinations. So it's not purely good. It's not good or bad. It just is. And I think it was a really interesting way of, for myself, I have no experience with psychosis or people who experience psychosis. And so for me, it was like really interesting to be able to have that experience of listening through their sound design and everything, because they actually did work with mental health professionals and people with lived experience with psychosis. And so I thought that was like a really tactful way of handling it versus like Persona 5, where they're like, oh, you were like objectified and taken advantage of by a teacher, but now we're gonna say it's all fine and you have to be naked for the next mission because it's for the gram, you know? That was...
You did mention that.
So off-putting because it's such a serious topic, and they started out handling it well and then they went the other way. So, I guess that kind of segues to me. How important is it to you guys that the topic of mental health or mental illness is handled skillfully? Does it make a difference on whether you're going to play it or not? Does it make much of an impact?
I don't think it's that important. I think that like if the game is going for it, then like you want it to be impressive. Like if Inside Out was like not accurate, like I don't know. I think like it would have been I don't know, like a less compelling story because you know that that's not your experience with it. So, but like,
Well, I think it's also like you design a game for that purpose, right? Like that's kind of the point of Celeste. And I think like if I'm going into a game where I'm like, okay, this is a game about mental health, I would want it to be handled well, but like, and I my caveat to that is, right, even if a game is not designed to be specifically about like how mental health is handled, it's a good thing to have represented just regardless. Like if you're dealing with characters, oftentimes like a story beat will be like about their physical health. Like I've run D&D a bunch, right? And it's really easy to write a plot line about like, oh, hey, somebody's sick. You need to go like get this medicine for them to cure them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot harder to write about their like, hey, this person's mental health sucks. You need to go like find something to help them. But realistically, like if I wanted to round out that character better, it would be like, hey, this person is like physically sick. You need to go like get something to help them. But also, like that physical sickness is playing an element on like their mental health. And if I was a better writer or a better, I guess, character designer, you know, that would be something I'd be interested in incorporating.
yeah, I mean, it's just part of the like the tapestry of human experiences. And so like if you're going to be making like games, I guess, that have humans, like in the way that people say everything is political, I think you can make an argument that like everything is mental health because anything that we interact with, we are bringing our state of mind to that thing. And so like kind of even if it's just like functional, quote unquote, that's still like a position of someone's mind to be in. And so like in that way, I think like if you have a conscious character, maybe Solitaire, like Balatro might genuinely, because it has no subjective perspective, might have, although I would say Balatro does have a lot to say about the gambling addiction, actually. Like I think that Balatro as an art piece like does have things to say and specifically about how video games impact gambling addiction too. Like, okay. I would say that Balatro, even though Balatro does not have a subjective perspective as a character, I do think the creation of that game in general seems to be very much in response to how you know gambly games, video games are in the video game industry. So I guess in that way it is kind of very much directly about mental health. But like Solitaire, okay, so like Solitaire might not have anything to do with mental health. But like there's a person playing Solitaire, and so in that way, just like you as the participant playing the game, bring your mental health to it. And so maybe Solitaire is a game that you play when you feel overwhelmed. And in that sense, it does develop a relationship for you with mental health. And so I think that I think like that's why I was saying like drawing the lines I think is like on when does a game include mental health. And let's say I'm designing a Solitaire app that is really peaceful and has like, you know, rain sounds and, you know, is made to be played before bed. Like, and then like, you know, that gets mental health adjacent. I feel like if you're making something specifically to, and that the reason I'm saying that is because that game exists on the App Store. It's like a Solitaire that's, you know, very light colors, very pleasant sound effects and things like that. And so I don't know. I think like because we're humans having a sensory experience, I think all games touch mental health in some way. I don't know. This is maybe it's too vague though. Maybe it's too vague to be useful.
No, also. I was going to say, Katie, you're about to bring this up, but there's also that externalized aspect of like, even if a game is not about mental health, what is it about the mental health of the person playing the game?
Yeah. So this is where I would attack Katie with the themes don't actually exist. It's about your subjective experience with something.
See, and I'm opposite. I'm like, see, themes exist in the world.
I would say that Solitaire doesn't have a theme, but if I come to it with the theme of relaxation, then it becomes that experience for me.
That's not a theme. That's a topic.
Okay. Anyways.
God,
Okay,
I teach
sorry.
this to my middle schoolers. Topics are one-word things that encompass a lot of stuff. Themes is us usually 1 or 2 sentences that complete thoughts about that topic.
Okay,
that
so
means something.
let's say like rest is important. That's a theme, right?
What? No,
Yes.
we're not doing this right now. We have another
Okay.
topic to actually talk about.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Maybe my next episode is going to be about themes just to troll Dempsey.
Oh, please. I'll be sick that day.
I would love that. Theme is my favorite thing to talk about. Anyway,
No, go. Because I think that's why I am hesitant to say what is a mental health game and what isn't. Because like I think Stardew Valley is not a mental health game. It's not about mental health. I think a lot of people would say it's important to their mental health. Like, so, but to say it's not a mental health game feels weird, even though you could say it's not a mental health game. It doesn't deal with mental health in any way. But,
it's
I
not
think
a game about mental health.
Yeah, it's not a game about mental health, but yeah.
Like games that I think of besides like Hellblade is frequently cited,
Sure.
As is Celeste. Another one that I hear talked about a lot is Gris.
Yeah, I
Yes.
played that. Yeah.
Which you played.
Yeah.
When it's supposed to be like a metaphor for the stages of grief.
Yeah.
Did you get that from it?
Yes. Gris is more like a visual painting about the ideas. It's like I would say that Gris does that is what Gris is, but like in a very similar way that you go to an art exhibit and you see something that connects with you emotionally, rather than something like Celeste, in which you are put in the position to deal with these emotions. So I would say that as far as like dealing with grief, like as a game that makes you deal with grief, I would say What Remains of Edith Finch is maybe a more direct way to deal with grief in a video game. Gris is like a painting, whereas What Remains of Edith Finch is you go through the grief with this person trying to make sense of their life.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of I think that's a really good point. There are those games where you are being put into the position of the protagonist dealing with that particular difficulty or issue or situation or whatever.
Sure.
And then there are ones that are more like you're saying, like an art piece, more observational.
Yes.
That you're supposed to just kind of go through it and see what the creator thinks about that topic.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I have a list. I pulled up a list by The Gamer that, but thegamer.com that has a list of games that deal with mental health. And they put, and I want to make this clear, I've not played Psychonauts 2 because they've put Psychonauts 2 as what their staff voted on as like the best game that deals with mental health, and we kind of were really dismissive, but I've never played Psychonauts 2, and they say the Psychonauts 2 deals really poignantly with things like self-harm and depression and addiction. And so if Psychonauts 2 is very important to you, I've not played it, I'm not saying that. I say Psychonauts 1 is a little bit more like a cartoon. Psychonauts 2 might very well have more sophisticated ways of dealing with stuff.
15 years or something between the two games. So I'd say that the video game, is it 15 years between the two, something like that? But the video game, the nuance of being able to talk about those topics in the last 15 years has probably been a little bit refined.
It is interesting that mental health is often a source of horror. Like,
Yes,
I think a lot of horror games deal with mental health. Darkest Dungeon, very famously.
Sure.
And that's what a lot of what I was reading in that same article was that of the games that dealt or talked about mental health or mental illness, either directly or indirectly, 75% of those games depicted them in a very negative light, often with people being people with like schizophrenic type symptoms being the psycho killers or violent or unpredictable. Which I think when you there are like the settings of an insane asylum being terrifying because the patients are going to jump out of their cells and attack you or whatever.
Yeah, like Arkham.
Yeah,
Asylum.
Arkham Asylum. Yeah, exactly. And I think like representation really does matter, because seeing your situation in a story, whether it's a movie or a game or literature, whatever, really does help, I think, people to see themselves obviously out in the world, and also for people who are very different from that to see them in a different way. And so I think like the negative portrayals of video games sometimes get a little bit like, get overlooked because it's part of the trope.
Sure.
So the set piece that we expect to see. But honestly, when I was reading those articles, I was like, oh my God, I never really thought about the fact that like, that's pretty, it's pretty, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but like, it's not great that the insane asylum is where we go for like scary setting.
Sure.
Like that says a lot about how we view the mentally ill and
isn't that more like, it's more of like how they've been treated historically.
Mm.
Right. Like, we go, the insane asylum's a thing because up until not that long ago, that's where these people were held.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy that not that long ago is like 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like actually not that long ago.
Okay, I'm gonna be the problematic one today. I'm gonna go ahead. They're two very different energies from Katie and Seth. I think that I'm gonna be a little bit more generous and say that anytime there's a large deviation away from what we consider normal, we look at it, we need an explanation. And so like when there's a serial killer nowadays, people look to, was this person sick? Or when there's a school shooter, when there's a mass murderer, anybody that has committed some kind of awful act of violence,
antisocial behavior.
Yeah, antisocial behavior. And even that term, antisocial behavior, is kind of like a medical pathologizing of those deviations that we consider harmful. And so I think part of it is trying to make sense of why horrible things happen. And this is the closest reason that we have, like why. And so I think we just associate mental health, maybe not like the all mental, like maybe not that all mentally ill people are violent, but that all violent people are mentally ill. And so that's like a physical manifestation of something that we consider a potentially dangerous deviation. I'm not saying that's okay, or that that's even statistically accurate or anything like that. But I am saying that that's probably why so many, because like horror obviously does the same exact thing. And there's also like deformations, which I think are deformed characters are often evil, which I think that I have a lot more sympathy to, because that actually has nothing to say about your moral worth or like your moral values and things like that. Whereas being mentally ill can and has and does impact people's moral values and the decisions they make in a way that being physically deformed actually does not. But regardless, I think I do think that like that's why we have no other ways to get to grips with evil. And I think it's interesting because like if you would have looked at like pre like 1920s, it probably like their versions of evil probably would have been like supernatural in some way, because they didn't have the vocabulary of mental health, but they were also trying to make sense of why do these horrible things happen. And so it's kind of us reaching for the closest explanation that feels useful to us, whether that's werewolves, why are people being attacked in the middle of the night? It's not just because there are men who feel entitled to people's bodies and are rapists, but it's because there are these monsters that, and so like it's, we've always had these myths that we're trying to make sense of horrible things. And I think the most current amalgamation to that is mental health, where when something horrible happens, that's the place we go to for an explanation.
Interesting. Do you feel like, so science is magic before we understand it, right? So do you think that the conversation starts to veer towards like you're saying, explaining deviations in socially acceptable behavior as finding those like mental health, or like there must be something messed up with this person's brain, and that's why these things are happening? But do you think that might actually be just as science progresses, we're able to understand it more and see it more. And that's why it's not that it's, oh, suddenly everywhere. It's just that we understand it better now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the explanatory story that we can tell ourselves now, and maybe the story will completely change as time goes on, and we'll have different models and things like that. But I think where we are now, I think that's the best answer for these really difficult things. And horror, which needs to deal with violence, I think this is the closest thing. Not all horror deals with violence, but the horror that does deal with violence, this is the closest thing it has to an explanation. And so I think that's why a lot of times insane asylums, crazy people that talk to themselves in media get demonized, is because those are the closest things we have to explain horrible things. I don't know. That's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it is, right?
It's an interesting perspective, I think, for like how science is being taught is shifting. But like one of the things that gets brought up a lot is like science really exists because humans need explanations for things.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And like science and math and everything, they're just like explanations of how the world works. And to Dempsey's point, right, we very often need explanations for how the world works. And when it doesn't come down to a math or a science, then where do we turn, right? And this has always been the human problem, is that there are just some like questions that can't be answered by math or science. And so where do we look for answers to those things? And some of those are like I think the big philosophical questions of like what happens after we die, and like
you go to the seam.
Right. Like, why is it that, two people born under sort of like the same circumstances, one of them can end up like this and one of them ends up like that? But also like there's a lot of like small, I think, things in our life that can't really be answered by like science in a reasonable way, or they're not science questions. It's one of the things I have to tell my students is like, just because you come up with a question doesn't mean it's like science answerable. Like, science is never going to answer for you, like, is this like a moral decision to make?
Sure.
You have to turn somewhere else. And the places that we turn to those things, like, has traditionally been religion. Right? But as especially Western society becomes more like a religious, people no longer have that as a place to turn. So, but they're still asking those questions.
Yeah.
Like, why do bad things happen to me? Why do bad things happen to the people around me? And the answer of like everything is just chaotic and random is not very satisfactory. So instead, right, we have to turn to things like there's pause. Not saying that these are not issues.
Sure.
Right? But like, we have to turn to things to say like, oh, there's a mental health crisis in the country, and that's the cause of all the problems.
Sure.
Or the political party I disagree with is like the cause of all the problems.
Sure.
Right. We want to simplify it.
Yeah. Right. And not only explain it or apply cause, but apply language in general. Like, how do we metaphorize these things? How do we, what is the color and candor of which we talk about them? I think, like when we talk about like mental health and how mental health relates to violence, especially in media, like it might be because someone themselves has had a violent experience that was related to mental health. Maybe their parent had mental health issues and things like that. And so that's how they feel. And so that's the emotional vocabulary that they feel attached to it. I mean, I think that's a very generous reading. I don't think that's what's happening maybe even most of the time. I think a lot of times it's a cheap shortcut, but I think on some level,
onto that.
Yeah.
This is, I feel it is the modern experience of browsing social media. I see this time and time again as I'm like scrolling through my Instagram Explore page. I'm looking at the comments for things. So much of the internet is people have had trauma and they apply it to every experience that they ever see. Right? Like if you've ever seen like a red flag TikTok or like red flag, green flag, just like somebody interacting with their partner, there is going to be somebody in the comments that's like, this is a red flag, you should dump them. And I'm like, this is a very normal human interaction. Like, you are just applying the trauma that you've had
Yeah.
to this like situation. But also, right, like, if you are a game designer, reasonably, like, if you're developing interaction, if you're writing interactions between people, your lived experiences are going to go into that creation.
Sure.
It's I think taking that approach of like, I've had this bad experience, and so when I see this, I'm assuming automatically that it's that's what it is. That's like a child who's at that developmental stage of, it has fur, it's a cat.
It's a cat. Right.
Yeah. I think, and that's how I feel about, like, as we're hopefully progressing, I hope I'm using that word right, but as we're progressing in like more sophisticated looks at mental health, we'll understand that, like, this connection between violence and mental health might be a big part of violence, but it's a very small part of mental health.
Right.
And so even though every time we think about violence, we'll think about this antisocial deviation, when we think about mental health in general, it's actually a very small piece of it. And a lot more likely is subtle self-destructive behaviors. And I think there's more room for novelty there, and there's more room for relatability. So like Night in the Woods is very much a game about I would say specifically depression and dissatisfaction and like these not knowing, being very scared of yourself and things like that. And that's so much more relatable. Like that's like it's an extraordinarily relatable story and game and what you're spending time doing and how you're struggling to connect with your friends and parents and things like that. And so I think that I think that the relationship between violence and mental health is problematic. I do agree, and that needs to be decoupled. And I think it needs to be decoupled by, I think, leaving room for why people would associate violence and mental health, but also understanding that although mental health is a big part of violence, it's a very small part of mental health in general. And there's a lot more interesting stories that are not horrific. That's the thing, is that I love mental health when it's not dealt with in horror. I think like other genres I think that's one of the reasons I love Celeste so much. It's because it deals so directly with mental health in a way that's not horrific. In a way that's not like violent and terrifying, in a way that's very like Madeline chooses to climb the mountain. Like, it's a goal she sets out for herself. She's not trapped in an insane asylum. She's not like, it's something that she has agency in this decision. And I think
she's
like
striving for it.
Yeah, she's striving to accomplish something. And I think like that's more likely like what my experience with mental health has been. It's not, I have no goals and I have been so incapacitated, everything is just hell. It's more like I have these parts of myself that are very difficult to manage, as I have these other things I'm trying to accomplish as well. And I think horror really only captures like this small, extreme version of that experience. But I think other genres, there's a lot more room in other genres to capture like more interesting elements of the mental health experience.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's the word I was trying to think of before was reductive. Like, it's reductive to take that experience and just have it be, like you're saying, like a horror experience. It's more interesting to bring it into another like to make it a part of the story and not the whole story, or like not the only facet of this person that you're dealing with, you know. I was trying to think of what's that one game about the girl who ferries people to the
Spiritfarer?
Dead Souls. Yeah, Spiritfarer. That's fairies. Yep, it's there in it. Spiritfarer.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with mental health in that game.
Yeah, like you're dealing with like grief and self like fulfillment and
self-loathing. Really like antisocial, like rude antisocial behaviors, not wanting to develop meaningful relationships with the people around you and things like that. And I do think that Spiritfarer is, especially, it's like Spiritfarer is like old folks home vibe. Like
Yeah.
I like it's like okay, all these people that are kind of needing to come to grips with who they are and kind of do their final things.
Acceptance.
Yeah,
Yes.
acceptance in a community in which they interact with each other, and they have to see how other people are living and dealing with this and that. And so I think
Mhm.
I've never thought of Spiritfarer like that, but I think as a metaphor for old folks home, I think it works like really
It
well.
does.
But yeah, I think that's a more interesting genre to deal with these things. I think Spiritfarer is it's a really well reviewed game and people really connect with it. And yeah, I think so. Gris is an example of that, of dealing with things that are darker without being horror element. I mean,
Heavy-handed.
yeah, Gris is unbelievably beautiful from like a geometric, like Gris is like design wise is very beautiful. And I think that's also another way that people can express how they feel about these things. So yeah, I don't know. I think horror, yeah, I think that's maybe kind of the cultural vocabulary that hopefully will continue to expand. I don't know. Silent Hill, I think famously deals with mental health issues.
And I think, yeah, I watched, when we did our horror episode, I watched a video essay about Silent Hill, and it was pretty fascinating and pretty scary. I think when horror is done well, it can very insightfully examine the fears of society.
Sure.
And issues in society. And when it's done poorly, it can be very ham-fisted. So, but when it's done well, I like to watch video essays about it because I'm too scared to play it myself.
Do you have a character in video games that you think has mental health issues, even if it's not diagnosed? Or like explicit or like obvious?
How about like Disco Elysium?
Oh yeah, that's the whole game.
The whole game.
Yeah, it's that whole game.
It's the whole game. Yeah. He's
That's
the one
such
that came to mind, though.
That's such a good example.
Yeah, because you're playing as this guy who is completely out of, like, first of all, completely doesn't know who he is and is trying to rebuild his identity with the bits and pieces that he can remember. And meanwhile, all of the different parts of himself are at war with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, Disco Elysium is... Because, I mean, I would say, like, it feels like it starts the game with having a mental health crisis. Like, he's drinking a lot, but obviously that's fueled by the trauma of the situation that he steps into and his inability to cope with that. It's like, it feels like this big mental health spiral is what kicks the game off in the first place. Like the repression of the memories.
Inciting evidence, incident.
Yeah.
There.
That's such, that's, I think that's probably like one of the yeah, that's so interesting.
That's a good game. People should play that game.
Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
Which has like wide renown as an amazing game.
It is an amazing game, just for so many reasons. So many reasons. It's really good. I'm looking at my gaming list to see if there's anything else that I've missed right off the top of my head. But yeah, I think
This War of Mine deals with pretty directly.
Yeah. Aren't you a refugee in that one?
Kind of. I would not say you're a refugee. I would say that you are surviving in a war zone. Refugees
are kind of
a specific political class.
Right.
That these people do not enjoy the protections of.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say, I mean, kind of any conflict can have some of this stuff. I don't know. I really like when very light and hopeful perspectives are taken very seriously. And I think, and it's something that we've talked about before, but yeah, I think it's the same way with mental health. Mental health conversations a lot of times center around like only trauma and all this other really negative stuff. And I think that, although that's a big part, and I think that's when people become most aware of their mental health, is when there's something big like that happens. I think I think the majority of the time, it's these little small things that I think are still fascinating. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like in Unpacking, the story of Unpacking is very observational because you're literally just taking things out of this girl's boxes as she progresses through her life. But it's interesting because they do a really good job of portraying her kind of headspace as she's going through life. And like when she moves into the boyfriend's house and there's no room for her, and you can see that she's making herself smaller in order to fit in, and then returning back to her childhood home and trying to figure out how to make the two things mesh when they just don't, you know? Yeah.
I think the part of this conversation that I am most interested in is the player experience, is like people who are like, Power Wash Simulator saved my life. Like that, there's something like about what we bring to games. Like Dark Souls, I think FromSoft, there's a very popular conversation about FromSoft being extraordinarily inspiring games and very important to a lot of people's mental health. And I think that's because of what people bring to the game rather than the game itself.
Well, like Dark Souls as a franchise, I just saw somebody say this, which is why it's on my head. But like in the Dark Souls universe, every character has gone through something tragic, and it's just slowly whittling away their life. And that's how you run into all of the characters. Like, that's literally every character. It's the foundational idea behind hollowing in the Dark Souls games, is literally like your life is just seeping out of you. And in Elden Ring, though, I mean, like, every character you meet in Elden Ring is just sort of slowly awaiting the end of the universe. Some of them are like actively bringing it upon. Some of them are just passive in that way. And a lot of, I think, the inspiration that people have felt from the Dark Souls games is like in the face of literally everybody around you having just gone through tragedy, there is still like a pathway to take that you can like find some sort of redemption. And you can like pick yourself up and make it happen.
Oh, that's really nice, actually.
Yeah, like Dark Souls is such like a fascinating series for a lot of reasons, but there's a great video essay I saw a while back. I think it's just called like Dark Souls 3 is trying to kill itself. About like essentially because the end of Dark Souls 3 is the end of the universe. You literally sort of magically get teleported to the end of time. And it's just you and this other dude who's trying to drink your blood for complicated reasons. But it's just you and another dude at the end of time. Like the only two people left in the universe are forced to fight to the death because you have the last remnant of the Dark Soul. And this other guy needs it to paint a new world for everybody to live in.
Does that make you the bad guy?
Huh?
Am I on
his
his side?
The bad guy?
No, because by killing him, you instead reclaim the Dark Soul, and you give it to a painter who will paint a peaceful world.
Okay. Got you.
Very mythical.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, but like Dark Souls 3 fundamentally deals with like everything is coming to an end and how do you cope with it, which is sort of like the summation of the series. But you kind of have to get into it for it to make sense.
My existential dread definitely would do well with that.
It's great.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. That was a fun conversation. This has been Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach us. Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to check us out, we are on TikTok, where Dempsey makes cool videos about vinyl and many other things. You can find us on Spotify and all the places you find podcasts, and I think on Instagram as well. And check us out on Blue Sky, because that would make Dempsey's heart super happy. And we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Okay.
Okie dokie.